Welcome to the Fathering Strong podcast, where we connect, engage, and empower fathers to be the best dads they can be for their families and communities. And now, your hosts are Bruce Stapleton and Pastor Eli Williams.
Welcome to the Fathering Strong podcast. Thanks for joining us today. I am Bruce Stapleton, father, grandfather, and the founder of the Lifegevity Wellness Program.
Eli Williams here. I'm a husband, a father, a grandfather, an author, a pastor, and I'm president of Urban Light Ministries. It is the nonprofit that powers Fathering Strong. Welcome.
Welcome, everyone. Last time in our discussion, we talked about maintaining a good work-life family balance. In this episode of the Fathering Strong podcast, we're going to continue in that vein with launching a discussion on self-care series. And we're going to kick it off with our discussion on the importance of rest.
Yes, so important. The lack of rest is a serious issue. It's amazing how many people are suffering from burnout these days. And I don't know if this is a newer phenomenon or not. I just know that from what I read, it's a pretty serious issue. There was a survey done in 2021 by the American Psychological Association that revealed that up to 79% of workers reported some kind of work-related stress. 79%. That's nearly 8 out of 10. I would say that's a crisis, wouldn't you? It's a problem. Not only when it comes to job performance, but when you're stressed out, when you're feeling burnt out, it impacts your family. It impacts your marriage. Just every part of you. And we pointed some of that out in last week's Fathering Strong blog, actually this week's Fathering Strong blog. And one thing we learned is that emotional exhaustion is really at the core. It's one of the main symptoms. When you are emotionally exhausted, right, there's not much left for you when it comes to your relationships in your life. It's a personal struggle, but when it comes to having the emotions that you need, the healthy emotions that you need for building and maintaining relationships with other people in your life, it becomes a crisis. It's easy to become withdrawn. You just don't want to talk to anybody. I don't know if you, dear listener or viewer, have ever felt this way. But there comes a time when you really don't want to talk to anybody. You're just withdrawn. You just rather be left alone. And sometimes, it shows up in being less patient. It can happen on the job, at home, and in every situation. When you are emotionally exhausted, then you're just not available for people. So that's a serious problem. And it's really the cause of much of the conflict that you may be having in your life. Being irritable and easily resentful. When simple disagreements can escalate and turn into something much, much worse, because you really don't have the patience and the emotional bandwidth to deal with conflict. Anybody ever felt that way? That's a symptom of potentially being burned out. When you're feeling that way, it can make it difficult at home to even do basic household chores. You're just tired. You're drained. And you don't feel like taking care of the kid. You don't feel like taking out the trash. You don't feel like washing the dishes. You don't even feel like talking to anybody. And that's really not healthy at all, to say the least about it. Now, I don't know, Bruce, you've probably never felt this way because you're Superman, right?
Yeah, never. But I always like the analogy. Have you ever heard the one about filling your cup? I mean, if you keep emptying it and you keep emptying it and you keep emptying it, you're going to get burnt out. You've got to find ways to get it filled with rest, with encouragement, with family and friends and support. I mean, they'll tell you that people are a lot less stressed that have good relationships because they have a support structure around them. So I think those are all key things you need to look at.
And it's hard to maintain that support structure when you are short tempered, when you, have difficulty even communicating with your partner, um, when you are prone to let minor misunderstandings cause major issues. You know, another way I've seen it happen is that you begin to nitpick and taking things the wrong way. I think all that comes from just being tired, just being exhausted. You're burned out. And when you're burned out, it's difficult to actually even think about sex. You have decreased libido, and being physically intimate, even with someone you love, can turn out to be just a source of frustration because you just don't have the energy, you just don't have the want to, and that can further strain relationships.
Yeah,
And when it
yeah.
comes to your children, I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
No, I was just agreeing with you. I think, if you're totally burnt out and you haven't filled that cup, I mean, it's going to affect all different areas of your life.
No question about it. And when it comes to your kids, I mean, kids require a lot of attention. And when they don't get it from you, they feel neglected. They may even, because kids have a tendency to internalize. So they may feel like it's their fault that they did something wrong. Daddy is angry with me. No, daddy really isn't angry with you. Daddy is just tired and he doesn't feel like, playing. He doesn't feel like talking right now. He doesn't want to hear one more why this or why that question. He's just tired. But kids don't process it that way. It's I've done something wrong, or daddy doesn't feel good and so I don't feel good. And they may even begin to internalize what you're feeling, take it on, and be carrying your burden because they know that you're suffering. So burnout is not a good thing. I think it's safe to say it can cause a ripple effect throughout every aspect of your life and even into the family unit. It can cause feelings of isolation, of disconnection and dissatisfaction among family members. So it's something we want to guard against, and we want to, if we are identifying with these symptoms, we want to pay attention to it and we want to deal with it because being burned out is not healthy, not for you and not for those in your life.
Yeah, it's a serious concern. I mean, for sure. And if you're watching this or listening, and you're one of the tens of thousands of people just like us, because trust me, we've all dealt with this at all points of our life, going through and just trying to identify how to take that stress out of our life. There's some ways that hopefully you can not only prevent it, but hopefully can recover from that too.
Yeah, and like most things, there's no silver bullet. There's no panacea. There's no one thing you can do to recover from burnout. There are a number of things, however, that we can do to begin. And one of those is identifying it, just recognizing, hey, I've got a problem here. I'm tired. I'm drained. I am making a wreck of things in my relationships. And once we've identified it, then we can begin to deal with the root causes for it. And although, I'm not an expert in this, there are some things that I have found, though, that can be helpful when it comes to coming up with a strategy to deal with your burnout. For instance, once you figured out what's causing your burnout, that might be work overload, which we talked about in the past couple of episodes. It could be a lack of control. Maybe it has to do with your work environment where you're stressed out a lot at work for whatever the reasons, or it could be some personal struggles that you're having. Whatever the reasons, try to identify, put your finger on it. What is it that's causing me to be so burned out. Then once you know, you can begin to tackle what those issues are. We say this a lot, set boundaries. If it's because you're taking on too much, you're too busy, just like we reminded you last week, you just have to say no. You have to limit yourself and learn to say no. And I'm still working on this. I'm better than I used to be, but I still have a ways to go in learning how to say no. Sorry, I'm with you, but I can't. I've got enough on my plate. I can't take on anything else. And whenever you have the means to, the authority to do it, delegate. Take some things off of your plate and give them to someone else. And if that's not possible and you still need that off your plate, it may make some sense to just let it drop. If it's not life or death, some things just don't need to be done. If they did, somebody would do it. So delegate and don't be afraid to say no, even if it means that it doesn't get done. We talk about this a lot. Maintain clear boundaries between your work life and your personal life. Just draw a circle around your life. And some things don't need to be in your life. Determine what those are, particularly those things that are causing you stress. And nobody's perfect at this. I don't know anybody who gets this right. And sometimes, you just need to talk to somebody, talk to a friend, a family member, or a professional. And I've got a great idea, Bruce. Why don't we join Fathering Strong? And if there's no group, start one. As a Fathering Strong member, you can actually start a group that may deal with this topic: how to find balance, how to conquer burnout, and those kinds of things, right? It's a great tool.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's plenty of people on Fathering Strong right now who are dealing with the same issues. And that was the reason we developed the app in the first place, to bring, these dads and fathers together so they can connect, get them empowered and engage them to be better dads. So, if you're looking for a way to communicate or at least join an organization or a group that's dealing with the same issues and see how other people are handling it, and maybe just talk through some things in sort of a private environment, Fathering Strong is a great place to do that. So that's a great suggestion, Eli. So after this short timeout, we'll consider some more strategies for overcoming burnout.
We dads and father figures need each other. We need a safe, non-judgmental place to share our stories, challenges, heartaches, and joys. Fathering Strong is just such a place. A new online community of connected, engaged, and empowered fathers. Learn more at www.fatheringstrong.com.
Welcome back to the Fathering Strong podcast. And today we're on the important topic of self-care. So specifically, we're looking at burnout and how to recover from it.
Yeah, for some, it really requires a lifestyle adjustment. We may need to seriously consider changes that we can make to our lifestyle that can help us reduce the stress in our life. It could be spending more time in nature, and maybe it's engaging in a hobby. If you don't have a hobby, find one, or just start to focus more on the things that you love to do. Maybe you've got a hobby that you've neglected. Maybe there's other things that you really need to be doing that could help you to be able to offload some of the stress that you're feeling. Maybe it's reading a book. There may be, if you're like me, you've got all kinds of books that you've started or haven't even started, and they're just sitting around collecting dust. Maybe it's time to set some time apart for doing things that you've been putting off, things that would really help you to be able to be more relaxed, to get more rest, and to get rid of some of the stress that you're feeling. Just take that walk out through the park. If you live near a wooded area, just get out and commune with nature some. I want to do more of that, and I've made up my mind, Bruce, that this spring and this summer I'm going to get back on track with that. I don't know if I told you this or not, but I lost my walking partner, which is my dog Sky, several months ago, and she was my motivation for getting up and going out walking. She wasn't nuts about walking, especially after she got older, but I knew she needed it, and so I would do that, and I really needed it. So I don't have my walking buddy anymore, but I can't use that as an excuse. I need to get out there, and I like walking through the park, even through a cemetery. It's quiet, and the birds are chirping, and it's beautiful. So maybe something like that would be a nice lifestyle adjustment for you. These are important things. What do you do for relaxation?
We actually took a walk out in the one of the reserve parks for Mother's Day, and I was surprised how many people were out there. And that's the way people are celebrating their time with their mom. That's a good way to do it. Just get out and walk and relax, and and build that
Absolutely.
whole thing. And you talked earlier about the importance of rest, and that's has got to be essential to overall well-being. I mean, as I mentioned at the opening, I started this longevity wellness program, and one of the things we did in our overall program was actually build rest and relaxation into the actual program, the exercise, physical, mental program. And people thought that was sort of interesting and sort of, different, because they're like, well, you're giving me a program to rest. And what we found out is that as a part of that, I mean, when they would come into the facility and they would do their exercises and those things, but then they would also spend a time in our relaxation room to either do breathing exercises or affirmations or different kinds of different, relaxation techniques we would teach them. And we found that by them doing that, for the ones that were looking to lower their blood pressure, not only did it go down more during the relaxation session, it stayed down longer. We showed that their immune system improved. So really understanding how to build that into, as you talked about earlier, your overall regime of what you're doing is critical. One of the things, if you're a big weightlifter, a lot of people will tell you, when you're lifting weights and doing physical exercise, you're causing stress on your body. And one of the times that you gain the most muscle and strength is not when you're exercising, but when you're resting. So you have to rest in between to get that benefit. If you don't, you'll create total exhaustion. So that includes getting adequate sleep. That includes, as you talked earlier, good nutrition, those overall characteristics that really address that. And Anselye, the person who wrote the book on stress and actually came up with the word stress for humans. I mean, stress used to be talked about when you're making steel and things like that, but when you talk about it from a human perspective, he really identified that if you continually secrete those, hormonal enzymes that cause you stress. Back in the day when we were all cavemen and we were trying to keep our life from the animals around, you hit the stress program and that would give you the energy and the things you needed to do that. Well, when you're continually stressed all the time, it takes a huge amount of energy in your immune system that takes your body down. So you've got to find ways to, really fill that cup up again and really build that. And so you've really got to invest in your health and your happiness. It's really a key function of your physical, mental, and emotional well-being.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's not just about the physical; it's also about the mental. Rest allows our brains to process information. Really, resting helps your brain? Yes, it does. We're able to consolidate memories and improve focus and all that. When we're well rested, it makes all the difference. We feel better. We're more emotionally healthy. We're feeling less stress, and we're going to be in a better mood overall when it comes to that. So rest is essential for our health and happiness beyond the bodily help that rest is. It also helps us when it comes to our mental abilities. We're going to talk some more about that on the other side of this break. We're talking about self-care and the crucial importance of maximizing rest. This is Fathering Strong. Stay with us.
Do you know a new father who could benefit from a basic introduction to healthy fathering principles? POPS 101, a free online course consisting of 4 one-hour sessions in English or Spanish, could be perfect for him. POPS 101 lays out practical steps toward becoming the protector, order keeper, provider, and stabilizer his child needs. Learn more at urbanlight.org.
Welcome back to the Fathering Strong podcast. I'm Bruce Stapleton here with Pastor Eli Williams. Before the break, Eli, you talked a little bit about all rest is not created equal. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, here's what I mean. Let's say you work Monday through Friday, a factory or an office job, whatever it is you do. And Friday night, finally, the old song, everybody's working for the weekend, the old rock song by Loverboy. Everybody's working for the weekend. Well, so the weekend comes. It's Friday night. You're exhausted. You're finally done with work for a couple of days. And then Saturday morning comes. And guess what? You've got work to do. Whether it's yard work or housework or washing the car, it never ends. And then if you're a churchgoer, there's Sunday. And you go to church. And if you work at church, meaning you are engaged in, some of what goes on behind the scenes at church, whether it's an usher or you are on the praise and worship team, or you might be the pastor, whatever it is, that's really not rest, right? So you got more work to do, even at church. And some would say that getting the kids ready for church is work, and there's some truth to that. And then you get home from church, and after lunch, there's probably more work to do. And then it's back to the grind on Monday. So was that really rest? So many of us are working for the weekend, and then the weekend comes and you get very little rest, true rest. So now you're going back to work, and you're not working from having rested, you're really working from exhaustion because you're fatigued from all of the accumulated stress and work and responsibilities that have had to be met all along the way. Well, there's a better way. And it really is the difference between working from a place of rest and working from exhaustion. But it's going to require some work. It means prioritizing your daily and your weekly rest. And this can be difficult for people who are just used to the go, go, go grind all the time. But as you were saying, Bruce, earlier, we need that rest. It's critical, and we need it every day. The experts recommend that most adults should be aiming for somewhere between 7 and 9 hours of sleep each night. Now, I have met people who are just fine with 4 hours sleep. They're out there. Others say 6 hours. Give me 6 hours and I'm good. Well, that's not everybody. It's not me. I know my body, and I really need 7.5, 8 hours if I can get it. Can I function on less? Yes. But am I tired? Am I fatigued more? You bet I am. So whatever your body says you need to make sure you get it. And only you know what's absolutely best for you. But once you know what's best for you, it's important to prioritize that rest so that you get it every day. It also means setting aside at least one day a week for rest. Now, I don't know about you, Bruce. When I was a teenager, I remember my teachers would say to the class that things are going to be so different when we grow up, when we get out into the world. Computers are going to do a lot of the work. Robots are going to take over a lot of the mundane things of life. And the challenge when I get to be an adult is going to be learning what to do with all that free time. I think they got that wrong, don't you?
They actually taught that in my industrial psychology class back in college. They were worrying about what they were going to do with the 4-day work weeks and what people were going to do with those extra 3 days.
Boy, were they wrong. People are working more now than they ever have. They're taking it home with them. It's just not good. And finding even one day of rest is a serious challenge for a lot of us. But it's important that we prioritize that. For most of us, it's Sunday. That is a day of rest. You know, for those who study the Bible, even you don't have to be a Bible student. You know just from history that Sunday has traditionally been the day of rest. It's important to commit to that, to doing no work when you can. That may be a pipe dream for most people, but it's a good goal of doing no work outside of worship, so that your body and mind have time to recover from the previous week's toll. I mean, think of it. Even God, the creator of heaven and earth, rested. He rested. We need rest if we're really going to be working from that rest as we begin the week ahead. So I want to encourage everyone to plan to attend worship service, that's for sure, because we need to have restoration of our soul and our spirit. And church attendance is one of the ways in which we do that. But rest that body and feed your soul, feed your spirit by attending your worship service, that's for sure. But make it a goal to not do any physical work during your day off. For most of us, again, that's Sunday, so that you have the strength to carry you through the coming week.
Yeah, that's important. As I mentioned earlier, we found out through the studies that rest really helps improve focus and productivity. I know when I was running that wellness business, it was stressful. And I found that the times that I actually stepped back and thought about things and took some rest were the times that things happened positively. I mean, those productive sessions were really key to the success once you sort of lift your head up and take a breath and find out what you need to do. I saw a little short on Facebook the other day, which I thought was hilarious. There was a 4-year-old little girl, and her mom walks in the room, and she's got her head down, and her mom says, "What are you doing?" And she says, "I'm meditating." And she goes, "Meditating? What is that?" She goes, "Well, it's either when I talk to God or I'm working on my master plan. And I'm working on my master plan today," is what she said. So I thought that for a 4-year-old, that was pretty insightful. So
that's pretty cool. Wow. That
yeah,
kid's a genius.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it helps with that. Yeah. And so it helps with creative ideas, sparks new creative ideas. As I mentioned, I mean, some of the people that I worked with in the past, the ones that seem to have sort of the more holistic life and were doing things outside of work, were the ones that were the most productive. So working harder is not necessarily working smarter. I think those are key. And then from a physical perspective, it just gives you better resilience. And you've got to have that holistic view of life, of how you do things. And it's definitely harder said than done, but it goes back to some things we talked about last week. You mentioned this earlier a little bit, and that's put these times on your calendar, that you want to be free of burdens or work, or, put the church on the calendar, put the kids' time on the calendar, so you know that those times don't get lost. Because if you don't actively do that, you'll find ways of not doing them. And it's really important to look at that. And so have that motivation, because that extra energy is going to give you more motivation to tackle those, daily activities with more enthusiasm. And, the more you have energy, the better you're going to be. And overall, it just helps your overall physical well-being, your immune system, risk of burnout. I can tell you back in my 20s and 30s when I was working 80 hours a week to the point where you actually have stress-related, physical issues that if you don't deal with them, they will come back to haunt you. So you really need to make sure you're taking care of yourself.
No doubt about it. And really, I think it is important for fathers and mothers to have these conversations about the importance of rest. Not only should mom and dad understand the importance of quality rest for themselves and for each other, but for each family member. I mean, the sooner a child understands the importance of them getting enough sleep, the importance of them resting, then the healthier they're going to be as adults. I mean, they'll develop this lifestyle because of your example, because of your modeling it. They will grow up to be healthier as adults because they understand the importance of rest. They won't be burning the candle at both ends, as they say. And my wife accuses me of that. She says it less these days because I'm consciously working on myself and not do that so much. At one time I had 3 major projects going all at once. There's Urban Light Ministries, of course, which is my full-time work. I also had a weekly radio broadcast. You remember this, Bruce? Had a weekly broadcast, a 2-hour broadcast that became an internet radio program, and it was on stations all over the world and all of that. So I had that going on. And then I had all these other things I was doing, some of which was income generating. Some of it was not, but there were things that I loved to do. And it was just go, 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 do all the time. And my wife would accuse me of burning the candle at both ends. It took me a while, really, to start saying, no, I don't need to do that anymore. I need to focus on fewer things. And so I'm working on it. I'm doing better. And I'm feeling better as a result of it. And so still looking to get my best balance, but I'm taking a different approach now. I guess at 73, it's about time, right? When some people are retiring, we're still taking on new projects, but I'm trying to be more balanced of it. So I don't want anyone listening or watching to think that I've got it all figured out, because I'm still working on this just like you, but I am committed to it. So remember, make it a priority and let your kids see you striving to have a balance in your life and getting proper rest, so that when you talk to them about getting proper rest, they'll be able to say that you set a good example for them. So it's important to approach life and work from a rested state. It really is what empowers us and gives us more energy. It is the way we were designed by the Creator to get rest. When you read about the creation in the Bible, it says that the Lord did the work and that there was the morning, there was the evening, the first day. So the next day started with, a fresh start. And there was the night, which was created for rest. Science will tell you that nighttime was created for rest, and our bodies were created to have a nighttime, a time when our body regenerates, as Bruce so eloquently talked about here, but also our minds can regenerate, and then we're able to tackle the next day rested and able to be enthusiastic. So there's a lot to this, and I want to challenge each one who's listening or watching to not only prioritize for yourself rest, but also to talk to your family about it and get everyone on the same page with rest as an important part of your lifestyle.
Perfect. Well, that's all we have time for today. So make sure you read this week's Fathering Strong blog, either at urbanlight.org or fatheringstrong.com. And next time we're going to look at continuing our episode on self-care with a series on inner healing. That'll be on next week's edition of the Fathering Strong podcast.
All right. Well, listen, I want to leave you with this final thought. To find rest for your soul and spirit, look to the one who promised to be with us always, the one who is the good shepherd, the one who leads us to green pastures and quiet streams and restores our soul. He offers this advice in Matthew 11:28-30. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you'll find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. May the Lord bless you as you give your child what no one else on earth can, your fully developed father love. That's Fathering Strong.
The Fathering Strong podcast is a production of Urban Light Ministries with technical assistance from the Momentum Group, and Harold Rayford provides the theme music. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
Fathering Strong is powered by Urban Light Ministries, a not-for-profit organization serving the needs of families and children for nearly 30 years. Your support helps us continue turning the hearts of fathers to their children while meeting some of the immediate critical needs of struggling families with small children. Contributions of all sizes are welcomed at www.urbanlight.org.